Let me ask you something. Have you ever checked your bank account and felt like money just disappears? Like, you had a decent amount last week. Nothing crazy happened. You didn't go on vacation. You didn't buy anything expensive. But somehow, the number is just lower. And you sit there thinking, where did it go? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some of that money didn't just disappear. It was quietly taken. Not by a scammer. Not by a thief. By the very institution you trusted to keep your money safe. Your bank. And the wild part? You agreed to it. You signed the paperwork. You just didn't fully understand what you were signing. Today, we're going to talk about how banks make money from your financial mistakes. And I'm not talking about complicated Wall Street stuff. I'm talking about the everyday decisions that millions of ordinary people make, decisions that seem totally normal, but are actually making banks incredibly wealthy at your expense. By the end of this video, you're going to look at your bank account very differently. Let's get into it. Most people have a very simple relationship with their bank. You put money in. You take money out. The bank keeps it safe. That's the deal, right? And somewhere along the way, someone told you that the bank actually pays you for keeping your money there. It's called interest. So in your mind, the bank is kind of doing you a favor. That belief, that mental model of how banks work, is exactly what banks are counting on. Because here's what most people don't realize. Banks are not charities. They are not your financial friends. They are businesses. Highly sophisticated, enormously profitable businesses. And like every business, their entire model is built around one thing, making money. The question is, who are they making money from? The answer, most of the time, is you. Now before you close this video thinking this is going to be some conspiracy theory, let me be clear. Banks aren't evil. This is all completely legal. It's all in the terms and conditions you scrolled past when you opened your account. But legal doesn't mean it's in your best interest. And understanding how the system works is the first step to stopping it from working against you. Let's start with the most obvious one. Overdraft fees. Imagine you have $43 in your account. You're at the grocery store. You grab some things, swipe your card, and your total comes to $51. You didn't even notice you were short. The bank pays for it anyway. And then charges you $35 for the favor. So now you owe the bank $35 on top of the $8 you were already short. You went from having $43 to being $43 in the negative in a single grocery run. Here's the psychological part that makes this so effective. The bank didn't stop the transaction. They let it go through. Because if they stopped it, you'd fix the problem yourself. But by letting it go through and charging you later, they profit from your mistake without you even having time to catch it. And it gets more interesting. Studies have shown that overdraft fees disproportionately hit people who are already struggling financially. The people who can least afford a $35 penalty are the ones paying it the most often. Banks know this. The math works in their favor. Now let's talk about something a little less obvious. Minimum payments on credit cards. Picture this. You have a $2,000 balance on your credit card. The bank sends you a statement. At the bottom, it says your minimum payment due is $40. $40 feels manageable. So you pay $40 and move on with your life. You feel responsible because you paid something. But here's what's actually happening underneath that number. Your credit card has an interest rate of around 20% per year. That means every single month, your balance is growing because of interest charges. When you pay just the minimum, most of that payment goes toward interest, not the actual balance you owe. At that pace, it would take you over 7 years to pay off that $2,000. And by the end, you'd have paid nearly double what you originally spent. The bank didn't trick you into spending $2,000. You did that, but the minimum payment system is specifically designed to keep you paying for as long as possible. The longer you stay in debt, the more interest you generate, and the more the bank collects. Minimum payments are not a help feature. They are a profit feature dressed up as convenience. Let's go one level deeper. Here's where psychology gets really fascinating. There's a concept in behavioral economics called the pain of paying. Research has shown that when we physically hand over cash, our brain registers a kind of discomfort. It actually hurts a little, psychologically, to give away money you can see and feel. But when you swipe a card, that pain disappears almost completely. Banks and financial institutions understand this better than almost anyone. Credit cards, contactless payments, buy now pay later services, they all work because they reduce the psychological friction of spending. When spending doesn't feel like spending, you do more of it. And the more you spend, the more potential there is for interest charges, for late fees, for overdrafts, for all the little mechanisms that quietly transfer money from your pocket to the bank's balance sheet. Now think about savings accounts. You walk into a bank. You open a savings account. The bank tells you they'll pay you interest on your deposits. Currently, most traditional savings accounts offer somewhere around 0.5% interest annually. That means if you have $10,000 sitting in a savings account for a full year, the bank pays you about $50. Meanwhile, the bank is taking your $10,000 and lending it out to other customers at interest rates of 8, 12, 20, sometimes 25%. They borrow your money for almost nothing. They lend it out for a significant return. And they keep the difference. This gap, the difference between what they pay you and what they earn from lending, is called the net interest margin. And it is one of the primary ways banks generate billions of dollars every single year. You are not just a customer to a bank. You are a source of funding. Your deposits are their raw material, and like any business with raw materials, they want to get them as cheaply as possible. So they offer you just enough interest to make the account feel worth having, but not so much that it cuts into their profit. There's also a subtler trap that most people walk right into. It's called account inertia. Studies have found that the average person keeps the same bank account for over 15 years. Not because their bank is the best option. Not because they've compared rates and features. But simply because switching feels annoying and complicated. Banks know this. So they don't have to compete aggressively for your loyalty. They already have it, by default. They can keep offering mediocre interest rates and charging small fees because statistically, most people will never leave. Inertia is invisible. It doesn't feel like a mistake. But staying with a bank that doesn't serve your interests, purely because switching feels like effort, costs people thousands of dollars over a lifetime. So what do you actually do with all of this? First, understand that awareness is the most powerful tool you have. Banks aren't going to send you a letter explaining how to minimize what you pay them. The system is not set up to educate you. It's set up to process you. So the moment you start asking questions, the moment you start reading beyond the headline numbers, you've already broken out of the pattern most people are trapped in. Second, kill the minimum payment mindset. If you carry a credit card balance, every dollar you pay above the minimum is money that doesn't get charged interest. You don't have to pay the whole balance overnight. But paying $60, $80, $100 instead of the minimum $40 can cut years off your repayment time and save you an enormous amount in interest. Think of it this way, paying the minimum is like bailing out a sinking boat with a teaspoon. You're doing something, but you're not keeping up with the problem. Third, make your savings work harder. High-yield savings accounts, often available through online banks, regularly offer interest rates of 4 to 5%. That's 10 times what traditional savings accounts offer. There's no magic here. Online banks have lower operating costs because they don't maintain physical branches, and they pass some of those savings to you in the form of better interest rates. If you have $10,000 sitting in a traditional savings account earning $50 per year, and a high-yield account could be earning $400 to $500 per year, that difference is real money that you're leaving on the table purely out of habit. Fourth, set up overdraft protection or keep a buffer. Most banks will allow you to link a backup account or decline transactions that would overdraw your account instead of paying them and charging you a fee. These options exist. They just aren't always advertised because overdraft fees are profitable. Ask your bank directly, or look in your account settings, and turn on whatever protection is available. Monthly fees. Annual card fees. Transfer fees. ATM charges. These numbers are small on their own. $8 here. $12 there. But added up over a year, they often total hundreds of dollars in payments that most people never consciously notice because each individual charge feels too small to worry about. Your bank counts on that feeling. Small and forgettable is exactly how they want those fees to feel. Here's the thought I want to leave you with. Banks are not your enemy. But they are not your friend either. They are a business, and like every business, they have found incredibly sophisticated ways to profit from predictable human behavior. Impulsive spending. Inertia. Confusion about fine print. The pain-free illusion of card payments. The comfort of just paying the minimum. These aren't random. They are patterns that financial institutions have studied, understood, and quietly built entire revenue models around. The people who build wealth, who actually get ahead financially, aren't necessarily smarter. They don't earn dramatically more money, they've just learned to stop being predictable in the ways that cost them. They understand the game they're playing in. And understanding the game is the only way to stop losing it. So next time you look at your bank account and feel like money just disappears, remember this video. Because now you know, it didn't disappear. It just went somewhere you didn't choose to send it. And choice is the whole game. If this gave you something to think about, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more videos on how money really works, the psychology behind it, and how to start making it work for you instead of against you, stick around. We're just getting started.